Hi guys, I'll be going over set 5.5, patch 11.16 meta tier list, and I'll be going over top 5 comps that I think are best to climb with on this patch. At number 1, I put Hellion Reroll as my number 1 comp to climb for this patch, because I think it's one of the easiest comp to learn and force, and it's really solid, probably the most consistent comp that I've played so far on this patch. The most important part about this comp is you have to 3-star your Tristana and Kennen. It's a reroll comp, and you just roll for them at level 6. So for your best in slot Tristana item, it'll be BT and Last Whisper as your 2 main items. And the third item doesn't really matter, so I put X. But the third item could be Deathblade, IE, GS, Titans, or Hurricane. I usually just have BT and Last Whisper slammed, and whichever components I have, I just slammed any of these following items. For best in slot Kennen, you want to prioritize Kennen after your Tristana items. You basically want to have like any tank item on Kennen, like any tier item, like HP, or like Morello. These are all really good on Kennen. So it could look something like Morello, Frozen Heart, and the third Kennen item could be like GA, Redemption, or like stuff like Warmugs and stuff like that. So obviously it's most important to 3-star your Tristana and Kennen. And you also actually roll for Lulu 3-star as well, and Thresh and MF 3-star if your econ and HP allows it. Usually I try to go for Lulu 3 and Thresh 3 almost every time, and MF 3 is like a luxury. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it's like whatever. But MF 3 is also really good in this comp. Trap Claw is also a very insane item, util item. Basically, I actually rate Trap Claw as high as, or even higher than Morello on Kennen, and this will Trap Claw will go on Lulu, and it will protect your Tristana from getting CC'd. For this comp, I think the best start is Glove, as it builds into Last Whisper and also a Trap Claw component. It used to be Bow, but I don't rate Hurricane as much as highly as before, and I rather much prefer to have a better offensive item like Deathblade or IE, which scales better with Cannoneer. The comp can look something like this. This is your default level 6 board. Obviously, I only put 2 items here, as the third item could be flexible. It could be like Radiant Deathblade, Radiant IE, Radiant GS. Basically, any of the offensive AD item is really good for third item. And default positioning is like this. And if you're swapping sides, it would be like this. The playstyle for this comp is at levels stage 2, you want to be open forwarding. Basically, you're only losing econ for Kennen and Tristanas, and you'll sell everything else to make the econ threshold. So you'll be selling, if you get early Poppy, early Kled, Ziggs, if they cost econ, you'll be selling them, and you'll only be holding Kennen and Tristana. Goal going into the game in stage 2 is you're lose streaking all the way until stage 3-2. So you'll be losing entirety of stage 2 and 3-1, and that'll put you on a 6 lose streak. And at 3-2, you roll down your goal. You roll down all your econ until you hit Kennen 2 or Tristana 2, or until you stabilize your board, which is gonna look something like this at level 6. And you're gonna turn around your full lose streak into hopefully a full win streak in stage 3. Your level 6 board is always looking something like this. If your Kennen is very weak and is not upgraded, you could always put him in back row. You could do something like this. If your Kennen doesn't have items, you could do something like this. But usually this is your default positioning, and you just roll for Kennen 3, Tristana 3, Lulu 3, Thresh 3, and MF 3 as well for your level 6. At level 7, you could just add in like a Mystic, for example. You could just add in like a random Lux. At level 8, you could also add in, if it's an AP heavy lobby, I'll put another Mystic like Fiddlesticks for 3 Mystics. If it's an AD heavy lobby, you could also just take out Mystics and just play 4 Knights, like with Nautilus plus Galio for 4 Knights. If you have a Hellion spat, for example, you can put it on MF, and obviously you'll just play 6 Hellion at level 7 with Ziggs. You don't really want to play Kled for your Hellion, because Kled is a Cavalier, and it basically messes up with the aggro. So it's most preferred to not run the Cavalier in this comp. Another key thing is if the enemy has like a lot of tier item on Rel, or they have a stacked Rel, you could even distance your Kennen 1 up, so that the Rel will ult the Kennen, but not your backline. So that's also a good positioning tip. The Kennen, Tristana, Thresh allows it so that it helps decorner the corner unit. The Thresh helps decorner the corner unit, and Kennen and Tristana can go for the kill on the enemy carry. So, and then another thing you could put it on level 8 is obviously Ivan Volibear or Ivan Volibear or Fiddlesticks Volibear, it doesn't really matter. depending on what you hit. And it'll just look something like this. So basically your level 6 is fixed and your level 7 is most likely Mystic. Unless you have a Hellion spell, then it'll just be 6 Hellions. And your level 8 is very, very flexible between 4 Knights, 3 Mystic, or even Revenant. And I think for this, you obviously start Glove. I think Glove is probably the best opener for this. Glove or BF Sword is also fine as well. Next, for the second best comp for patch 11.16, I put Tank A-Bomb plus AP Carry, which is either Velkoz or Heimer, as the second best comp in the game. For best in slot Heimer, it's obviously Shojin, Archangel, and Jogauntlet. And all Radiant version are better, especially the Archangel part. The Radiant Archangel is significantly better. Other good options you have is Deathcap, Hodge, Guinsoo, basically any AP mana item. If you're doing the Velkoz carry version, it'll be Shojin plus AP plus AP. It doesn't have to be double AP, it could also be AP plus a healing item, where a healing item is either Gunblade or Hodge. So basically you just want Shojin for sure, whereas for the tier mana item, and it could be something like Jogauntlet, Archangel, Deathcap, Gunblade, Hodge, as follows. And your frontline will be Revenant, which are Ivern, Volibear, Fiddlesticks by default, and obviously Aeon frontline, which is Nunu brand Fiddlesticks. For your item start, I think Belt and Chain is a lot safer and it's more consistent, as it builds into Warmogs and Sunfire, which stabilize your early and mid game better. Or it could also be Tier if you're looking for a more aggressive offensive item start. Tier will be built into Shojin and Archangel. For this comp, for the Heimer version, it looks something like this. This is your default 8 at 9, or this is your default 8. Obviously you have Nunu, Fiddlesticks, Brand for A-Bomb, and Ivern, Volibear for frontline, and your Heimer with these following items. For your A-Bomb items, obviously you want Sunfire or like healing debuff item, your early mid game item, and you could have something like Spark, which reduces MR. You could also, all the Radiant defensive items are really good, like Radiant Redemption is probably best in slot if you can get it. But Radiant Spark is also really good. Radiant Bramble's not bad either. Radiant Declaw's not bad either. It just depends on the lobby. But you want Sunfire as your early mid game, so you have Sunfire on Nunu. Whatever tank A-bomb item you get, Radiant item you get, you just put it on your Fiddlesticks and Brand. This is your board, and you start with Belt, Chain, or Tier, depending on how you want to start. For the Velkoz version, it looks something like this. You just run basically the same thing, except you just run Velkoz carry instead of Heimer, and you'll just run Rel plus Lux, or even Syndra sometimes, depending on the lobby. For this, compared to Heimer, the Trap Claw is a lot more value, as Velkoz ult can get cancelled, whereas Heimer doesn't. So the Trap Claw is actually a lot of value for Velkoz. Trap Claw here. If there's a lot of Sins or Diana players, or even like Tristana, Syndra will be more value than Lux, so you could put like Syndra here, and you could even put I guess you could put Trap Claw on the Syndra here, and the Trap Claw will just go on here instead, and you could frontline this, for example. And if you happen to miss Rel, it could just be Lux 2 plus Syndra 2. The most important part about this comp is, unlike Heimer, you actually have to position your Velkoz. You always want your Rel to be on the opposite side of the Velkoz, so it guarantees the Rel shield onto the Velkoz. And if the enemy carry is on the top left, you always want to be on the opposite side of the enemy carry. So if the enemy carry is on the top left, your Velkoz wants to be bottom right. If the enemy carry is on the top right, your Velkoz wants to be on this side, and everything will just be mirrored. This comp, once you hit everything, and once you go level 9, like usually a capped Heimer A-Bomb board will almost win almost every single time, unless it's like a 3-star 4 cost. So this is like a comp that has one of the highest cap. For the third best comp, I put Rangers, Action, or Fearless Carry as my third best comp to climb for this patch. Reason why, I think this comp is very strong when you hit, but I've only put it as third best comp because it's like a kind of a high roll comp where it's a little inconsistent at top 4ing if you don't hit or if you don't have the HP. But once you hit and you have the HP and you have the resources and you have the opener for it, it's like a really strong comp to play. So for best in slot Aphelios, it'll be Deathblade, BT, and Guinsoo. Other great options are IE, Last Whisper, Hodge, or Shojin. And if it's like Shojin is like if you don't have any other options. For best in slot action, it'll be Deathblade, BT, Hurricane. It honestly doesn't matter that much. The rule of thumb is you want to have some sort of healing item, which is basically BT or Hodge, and some sort of AD item, which Deathblade is probably one of the best offensive item for your ranger. For frontline, you want to run Revenant frontline, Volley Ivern, or Ironclad versus AD, which are Jax, Rel, Nautilus, or just basically any generically good upgraded frontline, basically Galio, Rel, Garen, stuff like that. And basically your frontline is basically flexible. It just depends on the lobby and depends on when you hit. For this comp, you probably want to start BF Sword, as Deathblade is very good on both Aphelios and Action. So for your Ranger board, it could look something like this versus AD. For your frontline item, you could have something like Warmogs, Slimefire, Redemption, good util items like Zephyr, stuff like that, to stall time for your Rangers to start getting stacking on the Deathblade and doing the DPS. Usually these items are both on Aphelios and Action. Usually if Aphelios 2 is more consistent to hit, so I have items on Aphelios, but if I get lucky on my roll down and hit Action 2 at level 8, I'll move these items onto Action and do Action carry instead. Or if my board is stable enough to go 9, I'll transfer over the Aphelios 2 items to Action 2 whenever I hit at level 9. Your board doesn't always have to look like this. If it's not an AD heavy lobby, the Jax can become Ivern for extra HP, guaranteed to cast on Volibear, stuff like that. You could also add in like Mystic. Instead of Galio, you could add like 2 Mystics, or you could also even run 4 Nightbringer with Diana and Lee Sin. Basically, you just have a lot of options with frontline for Nightbringer, Ironclad, Revenant. The most important the most important part is you have your good frontline item that stalls time for your Deathblade Rangers to stack up. For the 4th best comp for this patch, I put Jax Carry. There's like 2 versions of Jax Carry. You could also do Jax Carry in 6 Skirmisher, but I think the 4 Knight plus Ironclad version is the superior version of Jax Carry. For best in slot Jax, it'll be BT, Last Whisper plus X. X can become GA, Hurricane, Titans, IE, or QSS. This comp is very strong versus AD comp, but it could be a little weak versus AP comps. Obviously, late game, you could drop Ironclad for Revenant, Mystic, if it's not an AD heavy lobby. For this comp, you could start Bow, BF, or Glove. Item start doesn't really matter for this comp. The most important part about this comp is having a good opener for it, which is the Skirmisher Sentinel opener with like Olaf or Udyr, and you just have Olaf or Udyr holding your Jax items. Comp at level 8 could look something like this. You'll be running 3 Ironclad with obviously Jax, Nautilus, Rel, and 4 Knight with Garen, Galio, Thresh, and Nautilus. The most important part is you're running synergies that makes your Jax tanky, and the Jax can drain tank with BT and kill 1 by 1. And you'll always be running 3 Skirmishers. Again, as mentioned before, this comp is very strong versus AD, but can be a little weak versus like Revenant AP comps. I think this is a comp that's very easy, that's very consistent at top 4ing, but it could be a little hard at winning the lobbies as it loses to capped draconic A-bomb boards or even Hellion sometimes. For the 5th and the last comp that I recommend for playing for this patch is Riven carry. There's a lot of version of Riven carry. I'm gonna mention 2 versions of it. But for best in slot Riven, it'll be BT, DB, and Hurricane. Honestly, Riven best in slot item doesn't really matter as much. I think the most important part is getting to the point where you have enough HP and resources to hit Riven 3. And it's very lobby dependent as well. BT, DB, Hurricane is really solid Riven items. RFC, Last Whisper, IE, QSS can also be BIS depending on the lobby. And the leftover items will go on Nidalee 3-star, and you'll be going for Riven 3-star, Nidalee 3-star, and Rakan 3-star at level 7. The versions I'll be talking about is the 4 Dawn, 3 Skirm, 3 Sentinel version, or there's also a 3 Ironclad, 2 Dawn version, or there's also the A-bomb version, but I'll be going over the first 2 versions only, or variants only. And for this comp, you want to start either BF or Bow. So version number 1 is 3 Ironclad version with Riven carry. It could look something like this. It looks kind of similar to the Jax comp. Obviously your Jax won't have these perfect item alongside Riven because they just cannibalize each other's item, but it could look something like this. Your Riven can have RFC, Hurricane, Deathblade, and you put it since it has RFC, you could put it a backline as well. This can be your default level 8 board. This is very strong versus AD, but if it's not an AD heavy lobby, obviously you could drop Ironclad for like obviously Volibear again, or even Mystics, or you could add in like a little bit more Dawnbringers as well, up to 4. So the most important part, again, as mentioned before, is hitting the Riven 3-star, as the spike from Riven 2 and Riven 3 is probably one of the biggest spike you could compared to the other champions. This comp, I think, it depends on the lobby. It could very easily win lobbies, but again, it loses to capped A-bomb AP comp, which is one of the strongest comp in the game currently. This could be another version of the Riven carry comp. You go for Riven 3, Rakan 3, Nidalee 3, and then leftover Nidalee can have items like Guinsoo, Hodge, or like QSS, Trap Claw, stuff like that. Obviously you can't have since you're rolling at level 7, you won't have Garen and Galio. I'll just be playing something like Gragas 2 and like Olaf, and instead of the Viego, I'll just have a different upgraded unit that's playing. And it's like a solid comp to top 4 with. It could very easily win lobbies depending on the lobby. Riven 3 is the most important part, and items are not as like important that you should be stressed about. So I went over through 5 comps. Number 1, Hellion Reroll. 2, Tank A-bomb plus AP. 3rd, Ranger's Action or Felix carry. 4th, Jax carry and Riven carry. There's other comps that I listed in my notes, like Yasuo, Lucian, Reroll Cav, Nocturne. And all these comps can very easily be all these comps can very easily win lobbies. It's just that I don't think they're as good as these top 5 comps. But these comps can all be really like win lobbies and be very solid if you get like a good opener for it. For example, if you get a Yasuo drop with a good item, then this comp will be very strong. But that's it for this patch. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.